Greetings, fellow Zimbabweans and our brothers and sisters all over the world. This is a public statement which I am making today as a response to the information that we have intercepted, which is circulating among all veterans in Zimbabwe, our motherland. I want to remind you that I have had a fair share of attacks, personal attacks from the Zimbabwean government because of my candor, my openness in rebuking, in speaking out, complaining. I have complained in so many circumstances, different occasions. I've complained, I have raised concerns on the manner in which our government handles affairs in our country. I have complained, I have criticized, I have raised concerns on the heavy-handedness of the state. I've spoken out publicly condemning the barbaric acts of human rights abuses, freedom of expressions, the closure of media space, the closure of democratic space, abuse of women, abuse of state security institutions in a manner that threatens the safety and the lives of Zimbabwean people. A lot of people who have spoken out like I do have either been attacked when they are in their houses, women have been raped, some have been abducted, some have been murdered, some have disappeared. Some have been taken to courts to face prosecutions on trumped-up charges, frivolous, spurious charges leveled against them, which under the most circumstances people could not and should not be arrested for or pulled to the courts for. It is on account of that outspokenness that the Zimbabwean government has targeted me, and they have done so many things. I have been detained by the police, I've been detained by the military, I have been threatened, I have received death threats, I have been beaten up by ZANU-PF militia, I have been attacked, I have been surveilled, I have been stalked, I have been followed. Drones are constantly flown over my house. And I have also suffered serious body injuries from assassination attempts orchestrated and instigated against me by the Zimbabwean government. This is not my first public statement. I have made several of them before. It is not a press statement because the press is not here. The press does not find our plight, our situations worthy of their attention. They want to be bribed so that they can also attend to our issues which in our opinion are very important, because as a public figure, I represent what every Zimbabwean has been suffering from for the past 41 years since independence. The brutality of the Zimbabwean government. Everything happens by coercion, by force. If you speak your mind, you are labeled the enemy of the state. You are labeled a puppet of Britain and America. You are being handled by the West so that you can fight the government, or they will label you someone who is a de facto politician who is trying to enter into politics via the back door. I was involved in the first accident on the 12th of June, 2019. And that picture there is what was left of the car, my car, which I was driving. This accident took the lives of the people I was with in that car. I lost my wife in that accident. I lost my very close brethren in the Lord. Those that I worked with, they perished in that accident. And I want to remind you that the man that you are seeing in that picture there, his name was Eugene Kanyuchi. He did not die from wounds sustained in that accident. He was stabbed. He was stabbed twice on his left armpit, and he was stabbed on his temple, on the head. These wounds, he didn't have these wounds when he was ferried from the scene of the accident to the hospital. When he was involved in the accident with me, he was the one who was least injured of the two of us who had survived on that accident. I was unconscious for most of the time, but he was not. I remember coming to briefly, well, at least we were still trapped in that car. And he spoke to me and he whispered in my ears and he said, "Apostle, don't speak out. The people are still here. If they find out that you are still alive, they are going to kill you." He is the one who volunteered that I should be ferried by the first car that came. He was fine. He had a broken right leg. He broke his tibia from the accident. That was the only injury that he had. This man, on that particular day, on the scene of the accident, he was very well aware of what was happening. He suffered just that injury to the extent that he was fit enough to call his wife, who was in Harare, and tell her what had happened. The person who gave him this phone to call his wife is one of the people who helped carrying him out of the wreckage of the car into the ambulance, which came later than 1 hour after the accident happened, when I was already ferried off the scene, but he remained there. On inspecting his body after they told us that he had died, we found these stab wounds on his temple and on his left armpit. And to our shock, the Mashingo General Hospital staff had washed his clothes. When they went to collect his body, they found out that they had washed his clothes. It has never happened before that hospital people wash clothes of people who were never admitted into the hospital who were pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. It is our suspicion that those people who orchestrated that accident, they followed the ambulance and they killed him along the way, because the accident happened 33 kilometers before Masvingo. That's where it happened. So we are not stupid, we are not simple-minded, we are not naive. Less than 4 hours after the accident, the police in Masvingo released a statement. Number one, in that statement, they explained and they provided details of what had happened. They published our names, the names of everyone who was involved in the accident, including the names of the deceased. Before our families were notified of their passing, the Zimbabwean people were already told, Apostle Chiwenga has been involved in an accident, and these are the people who have died, and these are the people who have survived. In that statement, the police also published our residential addresses. How did they know where I stay? Because I don't stay in Masvingo, I stay in Harare. How did they know my residential address? Because that address was written nowhere in the documents we carried in that car. This is not a story. You can research it and find it out. You can read that statement. It's there on the public domain. It is not allowed, it's not standard practice that when people die from a road accident, the police publish or publicize their names and their residential addresses. It has never happened. When people die, check any story from the Herald or from the ZTV, they don't publicize the residential address of the deceased. Neither do they publicize the names of the deceased before contacting their next of kin. Within 4 hours in that report, the Masvingo police also alleged that the driver was sleeping while driving. Even those who specialize in quantum physics, or those who are deemed to be the gurus in forensic investigations, there is no possibility that in 4 hours the police had concluded their investigations of an accident that happened 4 hours earlier and found out that the driver was sleeping. It was an orchestrated and a well-planned assassination attempt. When I woke up from the passing or the fainting that had happened on the accident scene, I was told by those who were driving me that they were driving me to Masvingo General Hospital. And I told them that they cannot take me to Masvingo General Hospital because I knew they were going to finish me off. So I gave them instructions and they took me to a different place from where I received the primary medical care before I was lifted from Masvingo to where I finally received proper treatment. I suffered serious injuries from that accident. I suffered broken bones, broken ribs, head injuries. And because of that accident, I was not able to work for at least 3 months. As if that was not enough, on the 13th of July, exactly 13 months after the first accident, the Zimbabwean government made a second attempt to take my life.